glass seems to be the thing that everybody kind of wants to know how I figured out, I want to include this last video. I'm going in, I'm just laying down my color like I'd always done, and you'll see that this is actually reminiscent of the cast-off painting. This actually came before that one, and that's why the second cast-off painting was kind of a no-brainer, because I'd kind of figured it out once and played with it once. So this video, I will be doing the painting, and we will create a round vase. And we'll have that light being reflected off of that in the similar way, but we'll kind of just look a little bit closely at it. So I've got my darks here. I'm building in my lights on top. I'm just creating a shadow. As I get more towards the viewer, as I'm moving out and creating that dimension, I'm getting lighter. And I am being mindful to leave some of those areas of dark. So I'm not actually going over everything I've done. It's very loose, it's very sloppy, but I'm just kind of almost pouncing in. If you look, I'm not really brush stroking, I'm just kind of pouncing in and placing in color. It's very loose, it's very intuitive, it kind of is without logic. Now I'm actually just going to put it in a little bit darker color and then some greens. More leaves. I love that blended color that I get when I have that pink and that green together. Now some stems. Kind of collecting them. I know at this point I'm going to do some kind of vase, so I'm just kind of spreading them out. And I know that I can paint them back in with that push and pull. Now I'm going to go into that bright aqua green and blending in that pink as that background. I'm just going to start shaping because right now they're just like a blob of pink. Now I'm going to be using that bright aqua green to shape it. Now I'm adding a little bit of white, and the white I'm using is gesso. So I'm just trying to cover up a little bit of that area. Still blending it out, and you'll see I get these nice little wisps of the pink coming through. I'll do the same thing on the green as I come in to frame them. And this first pass through that you're seeing is really like sketching. It's just kind of placing it out and then I'll refine it and shape it. Again, the benefit of working wet on wet is exactly this. I can kind of push and pull those shapes together until I get what I really want. And now I'm just really manipulating the color. I'm adding a little white, I'm adding a little bright aqua green, I'm blending it up into the stems because I know that this glass vase will be see-through. I need to have that color back there as well. And just blending and shaping those flowers. Because right now, like I said, they're just a hot mess of jumbled color. So I have to decide, where's this painting going? How far to the edges does it reach? How big will my vase be if I have this big mob of flowers up there? And I'm doing this, again, intuitively. I don't really have a plan as to what this finished product will look like, but I know the space I'm working with is fairly limited. So I just can't be, doing the vase so close to the bottom if I want to be able to see it, or pushing my flowers off the edge. Just using that same color that I'm using on the background to just paint the edges. Adding a little bit of that bright aqua green in there. I want to say teal every time, but it really is bright aqua green. Totally have called the company and tried to get a vat of it. To no avail, by the way. So now that my flowers had a couple minutes to kind of sit and rest and dry a little bit, I'm adding a little bit more of a lighter color. And you can see it starts as white, but it's picking up the color palette that the wet paint as I'm going around. So even though you start with one color, you end up with 3 shades different by the time you get to the last flower. I've got a brighter pink now. I'm just going to brighten that up. And even though I know that I want these kind of in your face with the white, I just felt like it was too muted. I didn't have enough differentiation in the tone. So that's why I went in with that pink. And that pink is that fabulous pink that I love by Holbein. It's that luminous rose. Their whole luminous line is actually incredible. And you'll see just by pouncing, even brush choice at this point is helping me. I'm kind of pouncing it. It's very loose. You're starting to see the petals develop, even though that's not what I'm really painting in. I'm just kind of pouncing in color. The petals will just mimic the brush strokes and become this textural thing that your eye disseminates as petals. And that's the beauty of abstract, really. You know, you put it in there, you lead the viewer to see whatever they want to see as it, and sometimes you just manipulate with color and space. It's the act of manipulation. The canvas, the viewer, it's all good. And you can see that my flowers are literally becoming monsters, so I'll have to shape them back as well. But again, it's still, I don't consider myself a romantic, but I still feel that these florals, because they're so blended and color rich, and yet they're bright but soft, they just have this romantic feel. A little bit of yellow in there. You know, I like to throw a little bit of yellow in there, just because. Just blending some colors there. Kind of thinking, where do I want to go with this? So I take out my yellow that clearly is clogged because I'm unclogging it. And I'm going to use a little bit of yellow just to have a little pop of light coming into it. And I'll start little and I'll just kind of make decisions like, do I like that? And then if I do, I just go all in. It's a little bit of teal. Or bright aqua green, actually. And you'll see me like kind of tapping it with the darker colors, just to establish some more shadowy lines. And I'm really going around the outside of the flowers because I know that the space created between the flowers will be darker. So I'm essentially finding the flower and framing around it with the darker color to give the illusion that they're three-dimensional and that there's like a crevice between them. So again, just adding a little bit more of the light in there. And I know this one's about glass vases, but you can't have a vase if you don't have anything in it. Well, I guess you could, but that would kind of make the whole point of the abstract floral a moot point. So I'm just shaping up the outside of that. You'll see I've got to do some work to shape up those flowers a little bit. And you really, if you look, I'm kind of dipping into areas. You don't want them to be like these round, perfectly circular shapes. You want them to be a little irregular. It gives it a little bit more organic feel. You see, I kind of take the brush, I dip into it, I shape it. The more irregularity you can give it, kind of gives it that more realistic feel. And you'll see all those little bits of light are helping to give the illusion that they are casting some glow. And all these layers are still wet, so it's really easy to manipulate them. I clean off my brush a little bit because it was more pink than it was blue. And this is really the act of me going, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing to the right. I know I need more on the left. So I'm just really moving around the piece, working on the parts I know for sure. The parts that I'm not quite sure about, I might just leave them for a little while. And you know, these are so time-lapse that, you know, you get this impression that these are happening in 15 minutes, but they're not. They're happening over the course of 2 hours. And I'm stopping the tape and I'm looking at it. So even though the original video might have been 2 hours long, I'm stopping in there to just kind of think a second and, you know, take it in and make color choices or go to the bathroom or whatever it might be. All right, so I'm establishing that the bottom part of this piece is going to be white. And that means that my vase, the color that's going to be reflecting through there, will also be white. So I don't actually draw in the vase until I have everything painted as far as the background wise. I don't really paint around the vase. I paint the vase around the flowers. I'm just painting in between the stems, filling in that space, because you wouldn't have these gaps of some other color sitting in there. Now I'm just shaping that vase. And I do find that the rounded vases don't come as easily as clearly the straight vases will, or other shapes. I really like the mason jar. It's a good go-to, but for some reason the circles I have to keep reshaping. I draw like almost like trying to draw the perfect heart. They never come out even on both sides. So I'm sketching it in, and you'll see I've kind of painted the background around the right side to kind of frame it over there, and I'm painting a little bit of the color on the inside, but this will be a push and pull too as I develop this round vase shape. And here I'm pushing the color in from there, and then I've got some wonky thing going on over there. I'm just shaping that up. Sometimes it does help to look at it upside down. So now I'm going to start to go into some of that gray just to frame the outside and give it some shadow. Now again, this is still sketchy. This is nothing set in stone, but I know that there's going to be a shadow on it. So I just go ahead and pick up the color, start sketching it in, and I know that I can blend it out, blend it back. One thing you don't want to do is you just don't want to create some kind of outline, like you took a Sharpie and you just kind of went around the outside. You really want it to be blended. A shadow isn't just like a stark line. It really is some kind of blended out coloring. And shadows can incorporate the colors of the background, the colors of the flowers. I mean, you don't have to do grays, but because the table was white, I did think gray was a good color to go in with, but certainly you could have done dark blue or anything. Because it's abstract, you can make it anything you want. And I kind of feel like I've got a better shape of the vase now. So what you see here is I'm just really going in and establishing that there's a bottom of this vase, because even though it's round, it has to be sitting on something. So I'm giving it a shadow across the bottom that says, okay, it's heavier down here. And why is that? It's because it's flat. And I'm just going in and I'm going to start working on top of that gray to start blending that out, blending it back. Could I have walked away from it like this? Totally. It's abstract. It can be whatever you want. But I really like those lights and those shadows to contrast. I really want to see it. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm kind of making it a little bit more dramatic. Glass would be so reflective, especially on a circle. Again, I'm not working from a reference point. I'm just throwing it in there. I'm making it abstract. I'm getting to define and decide what glass looks like. But if you're struggling with glass, I mean, go to Pinterest and put in there painting glass. Now you might get stuff that's stained glass kind of stuff, but I mean, just go ahead and search that and you'll see tons and tons of examples of artwork that has different interpretations of painted glass on it. Everything from the absolutely realistic to the extremely abstract. And I'm just making that whiter. I'm going in and making it so that the whites reflected on my vase are going to be stark, stark white, so that table has to be whiter. And at this point, I'm pretty happy with the way that's looking. I just want to make sure that I get a shadow. And that kind of ties it all together. So I'm taking that same, it's a neutral gray, and I'm just shadowing it. Now the shadow's going to be kind of rounded, so you'll see me do that on the bottom as well. Just taking a detailed edge of the brush and making it darker because it will be the darkest right underneath that vase. I'm even bringing it around the edge. I don't often remember to do that. Blending it in. Again, in order for your darks to be darker, you might have to make the midtones lighter. And that's exactly what I've done there. So really, essentially what I'm doing is I'm now making the whites around that shadow whiter, and that's helping to make my shadow appear darker. And then even the light that you see reflected in the vase, it's kind of like this brush stroking that's up and down. It's giving the illusion that the glass is beveled and you can only see kind of fragmented bits of the inside of the glass, those little bits of stem that are fragmented in the light. That act of adding the dark shadow across the bottom of the vase gives the illusion that it's sitting down. Its darkest shadow is going to be underneath. And that's really all it is to making a round vase.